Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I will never forget the day I turned the tables on an entitled home invader. You see, I was a single mom raising my 5-year-old child in a not-so-safe neighborhood in Texas. The place was infested with both human and animal threats, so I decided to take matters into my own hands by arming myself with a small pistol and taking gun safety classes to protect my little family. As the years passed, the neighborhood experienced a rash of break-ins, leaving me increasingly concerned for our safety. In response, I decided to hire a security company to install cameras around my home. But little did I know that these cameras would play a crucial role in the unexpected turn of events that unfolded. One ordinary day, as I reviewed the security footage, something caught my eye. There was a strange man lurking around my house. He seemed to be aimlessly wandering, so at first I brushed it off as a random passerby. I thought to myself, nothing to worry about, right? Well, turns out I couldn't have been more wrong. A few days later, I was engrossed in my work in my home office when I saw the same man on a camera. This time he was walking down my driveway, opened a gate and entered my backyard. Panic surged through me as I realized that the kitchen door was wide open and my child was playing in the living room. Without a second thought, I reached into my purse and retrieved my trusty pistol. My heart pounded in my chest as I raced to the kitchen, arriving just as a stranger calmly walked through the back door. With my grip on the gun tightening, "Who the heck are you? And why are you in my house?" I demanded, adrenaline coursing through my veins. The man froze in his tracks, his eyes widening in shock at the sight of me, gun pointed squarely at him. He stammered, his voice trembling. In a desperate attempt to deflect my anger, he quickly grabbed his phone and dialed 911. "Help! I'm standing in this kitchen and some crazy lady has a gun pointed at me," he shouted into the phone. I was stunned by his audacity but refused to lower my weapon. I calmly instructed my child to go play in their room, then returned my gaze to the intruder who still hadn't budged. "You're in my house. Get the heck out!" I barked, my voice unwavering. But to my astonishment, the guy didn't move. He stood his ground, maintaining eye contact with me, as if he had every right to be there. "You're gonna get it when the cops show up, you witch," he spat. My heart raced and my hands trembled, but I stood my ground, unwilling to let this intruder intimidate me. I was determined to protect my child in our home. Suddenly, the distant sound of sirens grew louder, signaling the arrival of the police. The guy's eyes widened in panic. "Arrest her! She's crazy!" he yelled, pointing at me. "Look, she has a gun on me!" Reluctantly, I set my pistol down on the kitchen counter, all the while keeping a wary eye on the intruder. My hands shook as I realized that the situation had spiraled far beyond anything I could have imagined. The police officers burst into the kitchen, their eyes scanning the room before settling on me and the intruder. The guy wasted no time in continuing his tirade. "Arrest her! She pulled a gun on me!" he shrieked, desperation in his voice. The cops exchanged incredulous looks before one of them asked, "You broke into this house?" The guy hesitated for a moment, then muttered, "Well, her door was open and then she pulled a gun on me. That's not how it works. Arrest her for having a gun." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was as if the intruder believed he was a victim in all of this. The police officers seemed equally baffled by his audacious claims. One of them turned to me and asked, "Do you have a license for that gun?" I nodded, my voice trembling as I replied, "Yes, I do. This is Texas after all." With that confirmation, the officers turned their attention back to the intruder, who was still howling about how I had done everything wrong. It was as if he believed there was a correct way to break into someone's home. In the end, the police arrested this intruder, who continued to protest and demand my arrest, claiming that I had violated some unwritten code of home invasion etiquette. I couldn't help but shake my head at the absurdity of the damn situation. I provided the police with a copy of the video footage of the intruder lurking around my property in the days leading up to his break-in. However, I never heard anything back from them regarding the case. I could only assume that the evidence was sufficient to send the entitled intruder to jail, where he might finally learn that breaking into someone's home is never the right way to go about things. As time passed, the memory of that fateful day began to fade, but I always held on to it as a reminder of the importance of being prepared to protect myself and my child. I learned that in a world filled with entitled individuals who believe they can do as they please, sometimes it's necessary to stand your ground and turn the tables on those who would try to harm you and your loved ones. Last winter, around January, my family and close friends were enjoying a cozy New Year's getaway at our condo in Vermont. My dad was a proud owner of the 8-unit complex where our condo was located. All the units except one were occupied, as everyone had gathered for the holiday festivities. Our condo complex had a decent parking area, but things could get tight when everyone was there at once. It all started one chilly evening when we returned from a day of skiing. We parked our car in a spot closest to the stairs to make unloading our gear easier. Our parking lot wasn't fancy, it was just gravel and dirt with no designated parking spaces. So it was pretty much a first-come, first-served situation. A few hours later, my brother went down to the car to retrieve something and was surprised to find a cardboard sign placed on our vehicle. The sign read, "Reserved parking for Unit 8 handicapped." Yes, they misspelled handicapped on both sides of the sign. Keep in mind that there were no assigned parking spaces for anyone in the complex. Unit 8 was one of the smaller units on the ground level, but half the size of the others. The tenants who rented Unit 8 were, to put it mildly, sketchy characters. Let's call them Rick and Tara. Rick and Tara were in their mid-20s and we didn't know much about them as they kept to themselves. We rarely saw them around and they raised some eyebrows. About 20 minutes after my brother's discovery, I headed down to the car to retrieve a pair of forgotten gloves. As I approached the car and unlocked it, the light signaled my presence. Suddenly, Rick started yelling at me from behind the car's window, demanding that I move the car by the morning or they would have it towed. It was apparent that Rick was under the influence of something, and his speech was incoherent. I decided to ignore him, grabbed my gloves, and quickly retreated to our condo. Back inside, I shared my experience with my dad. He had reached his limits and decided to confront Rick himself. My dad had briefly met Rick and Tara during the leasing process for their unit. However, he had undergone a significant change in appearance since then due to his cancer diagnosis and subsequent weight loss. Rick did not recognize my dad as a landlord and continued to rant about the parking situation. As my dad attempted to reason with Rick, he noticed a pipe-like object on a table in their living area. Coupled with Rick's erratic behavior and appearance, my dad concluded that it was a drug pipe. He decided to step back from the conversation and return to our condo. That's when he called the police to explain the situation and what he had observed. 30 minutes later, the police arrived at the scene and began talking to Rick and Tara. And based on my dad's information about the pipe, one of the officers spotted it, this time in plain sight along with a bag of drugs, and it was revealed that they were smoking crack and both of them were promptly arrested. In addition to their drug-related charges, my dad also initiated eviction proceedings against Rick and Tara for violating the terms of their lease. It was a no-brainer. Smoking crack inside the condo was a clear breach of the rules. After their arrest, we decided to renovate the entire unit because who knows how long they have been using drugs inside. The silver lining in this bizarre situation was a cardboard sign that still hangs in our living room, serving as a constant reminder of the incident and providing us with a good laugh every time we pass by it. To address some concerns, I would like to clarify that neither Rick nor Tara had any disabilities or handicaps that justified them claiming a reserved spot. Also, throughout the story, when I referred to buyers, I meant renters. I understand that some might disagree with how we handled the situation, but As landlords, having tenants who were using drugs inside the property was a serious issue that needed immediate attention. We emphasize with those who have overcome addiction, but in this case, ensuring the safety and well-being of all the tenants was our top priority. Lastly, Rick and Tara were not locked up for an extended period. They were held overnight in custody. I, female 31, gave birth to my beautiful son a week ago. Unfortunately, there were some complications, so I was only released yesterday, but I'm so grateful to be home with our baby boy. When my waters initially broke, my husband, 33, and I were at home, and I happened to be standing on my bedroom carpet. Cleaning was obviously not the priority, so I threw some towels down and we left for the hospital. During the time we were in the hospital, my mother-in-law, 59, kindly offered to feed our dogs for us, and we were very appreciative of her help. It was only once we got home yesterday that I saw my mother-in-law had left a receipt and note stuck to the fridge, saying that she had cleaned my bedroom carpet and wanted to be reimbursed. She had also taken it upon herself to clean the rest of the house while she was at it. And all in all, would like a day's pay at $25 per hour plus $200 worth of products. Now, while it was nice of her to clean the carpet and then the rest of my house, neither of us asked her to do this. So my husband wrote her the following text. "Hello, Mom. We really appreciate your help over the last few days while my wife was in the hospital. It was great having someone over to look after the dogs. We noticed your note and receipt on the fridge and are a little upset you took it upon yourself to 1. Snoop through the house as neither of us had told you about my wife's water break-in in the bedroom. 2. Go out and buy hundreds of dollars worth of cleaning products. And 3. Charging us for your time and the aforementioned products. We would also like to ask where these cleaning products are, as if we are paying for them, we would certainly like to get our money's worth. When we entrusted you with the dogs, we really thought you were helping us out of the goodness of your heart and not giving you an opportunity to make a quick buck. We're family, and we are hurt that you would do something like this while my wife was so unwell." My mother-in-law immediately responded to my husband saying that she did what she did out of the kindness of her heart, and she cannot believe we would be so ungrateful. I have also received some texts from extended family members saying that mother-in-law didn't have to help me, but did do despite her advanced age out of love. I have had to turn off my phone so that I don't have to deal with all the texts, but my husband is still getting a lot of hate from his family because we are manipulating the situation and making my mother-in-law the bad guy when she was only trying to get the house ready for the baby. I am quite upset by the whole thing, but my husband is now saying that maybe we should pay to get the extended family off our backs and just enjoy this time as new parents rather than dealing with all of this. I am not okay with him paying his mom for anything. She sent another text to my husband earlier saying she would be happy to gift us the products, i.e. take it off our bill, but she would still like to be paid for her time given that she dealt with a biohazard. Oh really? And now some comments on a post. Someone saying, quote, "My mother-in-law immediately responded to my husband saying that she did what she did out of the kindness of her heart. Then she shouldn't be expecting payment. Period." Not the jerk. Another commenter adds, "Not the jerk. You never consented to having your house cleaned or agreed to the services or the rate. She offered to feed your dogs, you took her up on that offer. The rest is on her." A third commenter goes with, "You're not the jerk. How weird of her and the other family members to pester you with this nonsense after what sounds like a stressful purse. There was no kindness involved in her actions." A few days ago, I found myself on the unfortunate end of credit card fraud. It was one of those situations you hear about happening to others, but you never expect it to happen to you. The fraudsters had somehow gotten hold of my credit card information and decided to go on a shopping spree purchasing a whopping $1,000 worth of car parts from Philadelphia. They had the audacity to have these parts shipped across the border to the very city I had called home, Vancouver, Canada. Typically, this will be the end of the story. Sometimes culprits get away with it, and other times they don't. But in the end, my credit card will be replaced, and I would move on with my life. Little did I know that this was just the beginning of a wild ride filled with unexpected twists and turns. A few days later, I received an unexpected call. The voice on the other end belonged to a DHL representative who informed me that a shipment was entering the country and customs fees needed to be paid. This raised a red flag in my mind because I hadn't shipped anything with DHL in ages. Truth be told, I found their service to be less than stellar. It didn't take me long to connect the dots and realize that the fraudsters were attempting to have their ill-gotten gains delivered to my city. It can't be. I thought to myself, who in their right mind would use a stolen credit card to order something and have it sent to their own house in the same city as a card holder? After a quick discussion with a DHL representative about the customs fees, which I made it clear I wouldn't be paying, I managed to obtain the address to which the package was being shipped. I hesitated for a moment, contemplating my next move. Eventually, I decided that the best course of action was to call the local police department and inform them of the situation. I shared all the details with the officer on the other end of the line, and unfortunately, I didn't know what type of car the parts were for. But I hope that my information might be of some use to them in the future. The officer listened carefully and then assured me that the chances of catching the culprits were slim. Nevertheless, he promised to swing by the address, which was conveniently only 15 minutes from my own home, to see if anything unusual was happening. He also said he'd follow up with me if necessary. I thanked him for his understanding and assistance, then resumed my work day. About an hour later, my phone rang, and I was surprised to see the same officer's name on a caller ID. His voice sounded excited, and I could hardly contain my curiosity as he began to speak. "Hi, OP," he said. "It's Officer X. He'll never guess what just happened. I followed up on a report and drove by the address you provided. I decided to knock on a door just to see if anyone was home and ask a few questions. To my amazement, a man opened the door and, as we were talking, a DHL delivery van pulled up. It was the exact package we had been discussing. I couldn't believe my ears. "Are you serious?" I stammered. The officer continued. The delivery driver walked up to the door and asked, "Hi, is OP there?" The man at the door didn't even flinch. He simply replied, "Oh yeah, he's just downstairs." My jaw nearly hit the floor. "That's pretty funny," I managed to say, "because I just got off the phone with you and I know for a fact that I don't live there." The man at the door, in a display of unbelievable audacity, looked at the officer straight in the eye and said, "Oh, whatever. The package is paid for." I couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. The officer, on the other hand, didn't find it amusing at all. He turned to the DHL driver and told him he should leave because he needed to make an arrest. "I'm calling you while I drive back to the precinct," the officer added. I thought it might brighten your day. I couldn't believe my luck. The audacious fraudsters had essentially delivered themselves into the hands of justice. It was a story too good not to share, and it marked the beginning of a plan for some pro-level revenge. I couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. I then decided to take matters into my own hands and turn the situation into the ultimate revenge story. The first step was to gather as much information as possible about the fraudsters. I contacted the police officer, Officer X, who had been at the scene and had the suspects in custody. He graciously agreed to meet with me to provide additional details. Officer X met me at a nearby coffee shop and we discussed the situation in more depth. He explained that the two suspects, the man who answered the door and another individual who was found inside the house, were now in custody and facing charges related to credit card fraud, identity theft, and attempted theft of a delivered package. The police had also obtained a search warrant for their residence, hoping to find more evidence of their criminal activities. I thanked Officer X for his swift action and cooperation. We exchanged contact information. He assured me that he would keep me updated on the progress of the case, and I knew that I could rely on him to help me seek justice. With the legal wheels in motion, I decided to take my revenge plan up a notch. I wanted the fraudsters to not only face the consequences of their actions, but also to experience the same frustration and inconvenience they had inflicted upon me. I began by contacting DHL to explain the situation and provide them with the case number and the fact that the shipment was connected to an ongoing fraud investigation. I asked them to cooperate fully with the police and provide any information or evidence they had regarding the fraudsters' actions. DHL's customer service representatives were understanding and committed to assisting with the case. Next, I reached out to the credit card company to inform them of the developments in the case and to provide any additional information they might need for their own investigation. I also requested that they expedite the replacement of my credit card, which they agreed to do. As the legal proceedings unfolded, I continued to collaborate with Officer X and the police department. I provided them with any information I had about the fraudulent transactions, such as timestamps, transaction IDs, and any communication I had with the fraudsters during the process. Every piece of evidence I could gather was handed over to the authorities to strengthen their case. One day I received a call from Officer X with some exciting news. The search of the fraudsters' residence had yielded valuable evidence, including a list of stolen credit card information, counterfeit identification documents, and a hidden stash of ill-gotten goods. It turned out that these individuals were part of a larger credit card fraud ring operating in the area. The police had arrested several more suspects and the case was gaining momentum. Officer X expressed his gratitude for my cooperation and the information I had provided, which had significantly contributed to the success of the investigation. It was a satisfying moment knowing that my actions were helping to dismantle a criminal operation. I reached out to the prosecutor assigned to the case and shared my plan. I suggested that as part of the plea deal or sentencing, the fraudsters be required to issue a public apology to me and the other victims they had targeted. I wanted them to publicly acknowledge their wrongdoing and the harm they had caused.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.